You know what one of the best things about video games is? All of the amazing items, of course. Whether it's cool weaponry that allows us to best our foes in new and exciting ways, protective gear to help fend off monsties, or awesome gadgets that make traversing the world a breeze, we just can't get enough of them. Sometimes though, games decide that we've had far too many cool items and that we could do with being knocked down a peg or two so that we'll appreciate what we have all the more. For this list, we're taking a look at some of the games that stripped us of our items and forced us to go it alone. Naturally, players get their stuff back eventually, but not before they're forced to endure a stretch of the game feeling very vulnerable and underpowered. Whilst we'll try our best to avoid any major spoilers, we will be touching on some plot points here and there, so, don't say we haven't warned you. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 times video games took all of your items. Number 10. Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 isn't exactly known for being a loot-heavy game, but players can still fill their digital pockets with all manner of weapons which come in handy for the various dastardly deeds that they're expected to carry out over the course of the game's runtime. However, one deed in particular strips Michael of all of his worldly possessions, leaving him with naught but his boxer shorts. Saucy. After being asked to meet up with Dave at the observatory, Michael is tasked with entering the morgue in Strawberry in order to verify if Ferdinand Kerimov, an informant and suspected terrorist, is actually dead. A quick bonk on the head sets the plan in motion, and Michael awakens sometime later in a body bag with nothing on him but his undies. Admittedly, players aren't left without their stuff for very long, but in order to get it back, they need to stealth kill a guard so that they can steal his pistol. They'll then need to dispatch a number of other guards on the first floor, and only then are they able to head upstairs and get all of their stuff back. There must be an easier way to check if someone's really dead than this. Number 9. Metroid Zero Mission. Were you to ask most gamers one thing they most associate with Metroid protagonist Samus Aran, they'd probably say her power suit. Although Metroid Zero Mission was a remake of the original Metroid, it added a number of new elements to the story, including a portion of the game where Samus is stripped of her iconic armor. After destroying the mother brain on the planet, Samus attempts to make an escape in her gunship only to be shot down by those pesky space pirates. Unfortunately for her, not only is her ship destroyed, dashing her hopes of leaving the planet, but so is her power suit. She's quickly captured by the space pirates, but is soon afforded the opportunity to escape thanks to a Metroid breakout. Armed with nothing but a stun gun, players must guide Samus through the mothership to a Chozo statue that offers her a trial. The reward for her success? Only a bloomin' brand new fully upgraded power suit, come on! Yes, the whole scenario is the video game equivalent of entering a talent show to secure the $10,000 you need for your siblings' tuition, mother's medical bills, or to save the after-school club, but it still makes for some fine gameplay and puts an interesting twist on a familiar formula. Number 8. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. If there's one thing you can say about The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is that it's big. Really big. In fact, you couldn't possibly fathom just how big it is. Alright, fine, we are drifting into hyperbole somewhat, but the map is rather large and it's full of items for players to collect. The world is also home to dozens of shrines, some of which can only be accessed by completing trials. There's one in particular that allows access to the shrine on Eventide Island, which isn't too fond of material possessions and strips players of them as soon as they begin to venture inland. Once the trial begins, players lose all of their items and must traverse the island, locate the 3 ancient orbs, and place them on their platform using only what they can find lying around. Link still has his powers, so enemies can be bested with improvised weapons, but it's still a pain when you know that there's a perfectly good sword for the job tucked away in your inventory. Of course, you could cheese the trial by just dropping your items on the beach and then picking them up after the quest starts, but that's cheating, and we absolutely don't condone that. Number 7. Okami. Okami is one of those games that must be seen to be believed. When it was released in 2006, both critics and players were blown away by its stunning ink-wash painting-inspired artwork, gripping narrative, and clever gameplay mechanics. Perhaps the most inventive of its mechanics was the Celestial Brush, which allowed players to pause the action and bring up a canvas so that they could draw things to help them progress. As an example, drawing a loop would summon a strong wind, drawing a line through enemies would cut them down, and drawing a bridge over a broken one would allow the player to pass. As the game progressed, players earned additional powers by releasing the Celestial Brush Gods, and these powers could be modified or upgraded over time. Sadly, we can't always have nice things, and before protagonist Amaterasu takes on Big Bad Yami, all of her Celestial Brush powers are stripped away and she has to make do without. As the fight goes on, Amaterasu's powers do get restored, somewhat hilariously thanks to the thoughts and prayers of those she'd previously held, but it's still a daunting task in the beginning trying to face Yami without your most useful weapons. Number 6. Bully. Despite what you might have heard from countless special interest groups and concerned parents, Bully is not, in fact, a game that encourages children to be bullies. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Upon his arrival at Bulworth Academy, protagonist Jimmy Hopkins sets about trying to assert his dominance over the school's many cliques in order to bring about peace amongst the student body. He's not the only one vying to be top dog though, and he's soon betrayed by senior Gary Smith, who wants the power all for himself. Throughout the game, Jimmy can collect a variety of weapons, including his trusty slingshot, and by the time the game's climax rolls around, he's built himself quite the arsenal. In order to get his hands on Gary, Jimmy must take on several of the clique leaders, but just as it seems like he's finally defeated them all and is going to be able to take Gary on, he's jumped by a couple of prefects who steal all of his items. How rude. As such, players are left to take on Gary with nothing but their bare fists. In fairness, it isn't the toughest fight in the world, but it would be over a heck of a lot quicker if players were able to use their slingshot on that slimy douche canoe. Yeah, take that. Number 5. Silent Hill 2. Do you know what's worse than being trapped in Spooky Town and being haunted by the memory of your dead wife? Being trapped in Spooky Town and being haunted by the memory of your dead wife without any weapons. Whilst traversing the Lakeview Hotel, Silent Hill 2 protagonist James Sunderland comes upon what is perhaps the world's stupidest elevator. When he first tries to enter, it makes an angry buzzing noise and refuses to do anything. Close inspection of its signage reveals that the lift will only operate with a maximum of one person inside. Well, I am only one person, players probably thought to themselves. So why won't the damn thing budge? The thing to remember here is that we're operating on video game logic, and so when the sign says weight allowance one person, what it actually means is weight allowance one person that weighs no more than a clothed James Sunderland, but without any of his items. In order to make the elevator work, players must deposit their items on a nearby shelf, leaving them to roam the hotel empty-handed until they can puzzle their way back to it. I suppose it's just lucky that James didn't have a large lunch that day, otherwise he'd have been completely screwed. Number 4. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. If you're the sort of person that enjoys hoarding loot like some sort of possessed dragon, then it's likely that you've already played Skyrim and have munched down more sweet rolls than you can count. In the province of Skyrim, the basic rule goes that if it isn't nailed down, you can claim it, and although this could cause frustration when you wind up over-encumbered, it is nice to have lots of options when it comes to armor, weaponry, and potions. Don't get too attached to all of that though, because once you embark on the No One Escapes Sidna Mine quest, your stuff will be taken from you. I'm not sure what you expected, Sidna Mine is a prison, after all. Come on. After investigating the forsworn conspiracy in Markarth, the city guards frame the Dragonborn for a series of murders and send them to Sidna Mine. Speaking with inmates and obtaining various items for them will eventually lead the Dragonborn to Madnak, who is truly behind all of the killings. Players are given the choice to either side with him, in which case he'll lead them to freedom, or to kill him and use his escape plans to get the heck out of Dodge. Either way, you get all of your sweet loot back in the end. Number 3. Resident Evil Village. As with any survival horror title, Resident Evil Village doesn't exactly bless players with loot. With that said though, by the time they've made their way through Castle Dimitrescu and back into the main part of the village, they'll have at least picked up a pistol, some healing items, and one or two other bits and bobs to boot. However, that all changes once you enter House Beneviento. Unlike Castle Dimitrescu, which is full to bursting with vicious creatures that are demanding to be fed a lead salad, House Beneviento is strangely empty. Upon entering the basement, protagonist Ethan Winters is faced with puppet Angie, who knocks him out and robs him of his worldly possessions. The only way to get them back is to solve a series of escape room-like puzzles and get the elevator working again. Sadly, you're not alone in there for long, as descending into the well to retrieve the breaker box key unleashes an abomination of nightmarish proportions, both figuratively and literally. Look at it, oh my god! Thankfully, the horrifying misshapen fetus monster is fairly easy to outwit, and once you've gotten the lift working, you're only a few swift scissor stabs away from getting all of your precious stuff back. Unfortunately though, there is no item in the entire world that can undo all of the emotional trauma. Number 2. Half-Life. Poor Gordon Freeman. Man just can't seem to catch a break, can he? First he gets stuck inside a research facility full of hostile aliens, and then he gets dumped into a trash compactor. No prizes for guessing that someone forgot to shut down all of the garbage mashers on the detention level. Honestly, you can't get the staff, can you? Indeed, about midway through Half-Life, our unlucky lad finds himself not only trying to fend off a bunch of interdimensional beasties, but also the Hazardous Environmental Combat Unit, a military force that has been sent in to cover up this whole sorry mess. And obviously by cover up we mean kill everyone, but I think you know that. When HE TCU do finally get their hands on Gordon, rather than just, sticking a bullet between his eyes, they decide to dump him into a trash compactor, still very much alive, though not before taking all of his items. Luckily, the trash in said compactor is nicely stacked, so players can get out quite easily. Plus, someone's been kind enough to leave a crowbar lying around, which doesn't exactly make light work of all of the headcrabs, but it's certainly fun just thwacking them to mush. Good luck finding all your other stuff, though. Number 1. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. So far, this list has covered the times when games take your inventory away, but at least had the decency to leave player characters with, well, their decency. Hell, even the morgue in GTA 5 let Michael keep his underpants. Poor Metal Gear Solid 2 protagonist Raiden doesn't even get the luxury of hanging on to his tighty whities. During the Big Shell incident, Raiden ends up getting himself captured and awakens strapped to a table completely nude. He's soon freed by Olga, but is still faced with the issue of having no gear and no clothes. In order to save both Raiden's life and his shame, players must navigate Arsenal and locate Solid Snake. Naturally, the whole place is crawling with enemies, and Raiden must be careful to keep a low profile. Well, as low of a profile as one can keep when completely nude. What's worse is that Arsenal is absolutely freezing, so Raiden will eventually catch a cold from hanging out completely starkers and start sneezing, alerting any nearby guards to his location. Luckily, there is medicine lying around to cure what ails him, though for the love of God, do not think too hard about where he's storing it.